Hello everyone, Bill Worster, Zazubar here, doing an old school on-camera video with an old school intro. So I just saw The Shape of Water last night, and I wanted to do a quick on-camera, mostly non-spoiler, I might do a little spoiler at the end, review, just kind of thoughts about it. Because it's not like a super blockbuster release kind of movie, so I wanted to do my review of it and inspire people who maybe haven't seen it yet, because it hasn't had a super wide release. It's had a wider release than I thought, though, so that's cool. But you should see it if you haven't, because it hasn't made, like, insane amounts of money. I mean, there's a Star Wars movie in theaters, so, you know, it hasn't touched that at all. So, you definitely need to head out there. So, this first little part of the video will be for you to go, this movie is definitely fucking worth paying whatever they're charging these days. Every fucking theater puts a gun up to you and asks for some other amount of money out of your wallet to see a movie. But I paid like $15 or whatever for each person to go see The Shape of Water. So whatever it is, it's worth spending, because this Guillermo del Toro little art project version of The Creature from the Black Lagoon, I mean, it's an homage to The Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's not a version of The Creature from the Black Lagoon. That's a misnomer that has sort of been spread throughout the media, because everybody's talking about the fact that he was inspired by Creature from the Black Lagoon. But it's a lot of it is like aesthetic stuff and aesthetics of the story notes that are sort of similar, because the directions they ultimately go on are all completely different, and it is a wholly independent and unique thing, and that's what's great about it. Is it's not just Guillermo del Toro's like weird version of The Creature from the Black Lagoon. It stands out as its own distinct thing. It tells its own story, and really great, it develops its own set of characters around the homage Creature from the Black Lagoon type creature. And I think that's what makes it really special and worth seeing. You have Michael Shannon and Sally Hawkins and Doug Jones actually in the monster suit, so it's just a great cast. And Guillermo del Toro seems to have had a very, very personal hand in the story. He wrote the script with somebody else, Vanessa Taylor, which I think might be his wife. I'm not positive on that. But if it is, you can definitely see a lot of personal touch in the entire film. And given the source material, and given the fact that I love Guillermo del Toro, that definitely really worked well for me. So, you know, I'm obviously really positive about this movie and telling you guys to go see it, but I don't necessarily think it's for everybody because of how, like, kind of intentionally niche it is. You know, the fact that Guillermo del Toro just wanted to make this kind of movie, and he decided to incorporate so much of his own, you know, kind of personal points of interest and just points of philosophy in it. And I found that just really interesting and personally inspiring, but given the way it's presented, I don't know if everybody will get it necessarily. And I also don't want to say, I don't know, that also sounds kind of pretentious, but I don't know if it's a movie that's even, like, you know, intentionally trying to be so artsy fartsy, but it definitely came off that way to me. But I definitely think it'll require a certain kind of taste, but if you have that taste, or if you somehow find yourself having that taste watching this movie, I think that you're in for a fucking wild ride. Like I said, the cast is really the thing that struck me as a massive point of this movie being really special, because not only is it like an all-star cast and everything, like the actors themselves are all great, obviously, like I said before, but the way the characters are written and the way they interact with each other, and just how smart the planning out of where they're all placed, why they're all involved in this incredibly bizarre situation, and who they all are as people building up to that. I thought that was all really clever. I thought it was all really interesting. And we talk about monster movies a lot on this here YouTube channel, and a lot of the bad ones, we talk about how much the human story is, like, completely bleh, and either the monster stuff isn't there either, and that's a problem, or the monster stuff's really good and it's a bummer that the human stuff is just terrible and it's such a slog to get to the cool monster stuff. This is a movie that's all so intertwined that's not a problem. So that's all really great. But like I said, the human characters just on their own in this 50s aesthetic and setting. And it definitely goes a long way to try and be authentic to the period. But it feels a lot more like a movie made at that time, trying to be authentic to that more than it is trying to be realistic. I think because this is a fantasy movie, and I like that. I think that's the approach you have to take with this kind of material, with this romantic monster science fiction hard adult drama type of thing. You have to present it as like, it's not our world, but what if this world, the people, like the people in this world, think it's real, so how would they act? And what if we try and comment on ideas that are real, especially now in this somewhat unreal version of a far off period? And I thought that was spot on, especially in that approach of going, well, let's be authentic to the way movies were made at this time, the way we remember that time now, more than actually trying to be like, well, what were 50s laboratories like? Because if you see the trailer, you know that it's like set in this crazy aerospace research center, and there's all kinds of crazy like 50s American scientific attempts to like outdo the Soviets and all these other governments they were competing with during the Cold War with this like space age tech, like these jet engines with giant jets on the fronts and little cockpits on the back to try and get us up to space before the Russians at this point had already gotten a man into space in the film. I don't know what exactly the year is. They don't say. I'm pretty sure. Probably intentionally, because this is more of like a fantasy thing, and if there was a specific year, that would put more of a real stamp on it. But there's a little bit of narration at the beginning and end to kind of bookend it as a fairy tale-esque kind of thing. And it's just kind of described as long ago in a small city by the coast, but still far away from all the big stuff. Like, it's super fairy tale, but set in a 50s monster movie kind of visual style and approach. I was trying to think of the right word. There's so many options, so many words, but it's quite an interesting experience. So I would definitely have to say that while I do like, I really can definitely say I love it, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's interesting, and it got me thinking about how we can still look back to not only entertainment from this time, from the 1950s, and ideas from that period, and still find inspiration and a drive for self-improvement, even more specifically, in these old ideas of the Creature from the Black Lagoon and monster movies, and all of the antiquated fucking bigotry and prejudices that we had at that time, looking at that again and in our modern gritty way. I think that this movie goes a long way to going, we can still take stuff like that and make new stuff with it, and it can still be super poignant and have all of us talking about what it means and what it could mean for the genre and us going forward. So that all sounds super fucking pretentious. Why don't we talk about the monster, because that's the thing that this movie doesn't like falter on it, but I feel like we've all been saying this a lot lately with movies that have been coming out. Maybe it's because 2017 has been such a good year for movies, whereas 2016 was such a bad year for movies. But we've all been saying, it's not perfect, but I still really like it. But the problems are, and I'm gonna definitely have to say that with this movie still. We said it with Star Wars: The Last Jedi and everything. Thor Ragnarok, everything that has come out and that we've liked this year, we've all had to be like, yeah, I liked it, but... And the but here is just that I think that the strive to make a good human cast and, make it super relevant to now, but also, super, engrossed in the time in which it's presenting itself and really telling an emotional human drama, I think the monster stuff kind of gets lost by the wayside. It's only a problem, in my opinion, in the sense that I just don't think the asset, as it's called, the creature, the monster, spends enough time with Sally Hawkins. I really wanted to see them, and they spend time together, and their relationship is definitely developed, but I felt like he himself was underdeveloped in the sense that we didn't get to see him do enough, and I felt like it was all Sally Hawkins, and then we just got a little glimpse of him, and I guess we were seeing it from her point of view, so that makes sense. But I guess I just wanted to see more of what. Not only just like, oh, well, what is he like? He's not just a walking and talking normal person. And they do address in the movie the idea that perhaps it's not so much that, he's this, fully developed sentient being on his own. It's that he's just really intelligent, and she's kind of embalming him with this sense of humanity, and she's anthropomorphizing him a lot. So that idea is definitely explored in really interesting ways. A lot of it visually, and that's the thing about this movie, is that a lot of the themes and the ideas are expressed visually, not through expository dialogue, and that's cool, and the way that's worked in the cinematography and the way the set is designed and all that, it's all really great. But at a certain point, I just wanted to know a little bit more about the glowy fish man. So we're about 13 minutes into this, so why don't we get a little bit more into spoilers then. So like I said, I definitely think you should check it out. It's not a fucking rip-roaring monster movie that's all about like a thing wreaking havoc on a city, and all that stuff. This is not that kind of thing. It's a really good character piece, with a really interesting use of, like this larger-than-life fantastic idea of a amphibious, kind of man-shaped, intelligent being that a woman finds a connection with because she, like it, feels ostracized and alone in comparison to the rest of society and what society deems as good and what's worth fighting for and who's worth looking up to and all that stuff. So those ideas are, again, what's really there to show us why these concepts are worth going back to and what we can do with these things going forward. So like I said, go watch the movie, experience it for yourself, feel all those feelings. Spoilers. So things that I want to say about this here picture that I don't think you should hear until after you've seen it. So everybody's talking about the fact that she fucks him. And, I knew that going in. I had read an article about it because I saw it like weeks before the movie even came out. And to be honest, when I saw the trailer, I didn't really even consider that. I've seen many movies with the girl and the monster trope, and none of them have ever gone that far. At least not that, none of them that aren't like exploitative or that scene is like a horrific thing. Nothing where it's just like, oh, well, it's consensual and that's what they do because they're both two thinking individuals and they decide to have sex. so that this was a first, I think, in that respect. Well, I actually thought of this before. It almost reminds me of Yeti, a Gay Love Story, but it's, you know, it's obviously a more, like, well thought out and, like, you know, artistic attempt at that kind of thing. But it's the same idea. It's two consensual fucking sentient beings deciding to get it on because they don't mind that they're not the same species. They've just grown to like each other a lot. And unlike the traditional King Kong and Dara relationship, they're the same size. So the question there always is, you know, is it bestiality? Is it morally right? And you know, that's certainly a question that the movie wants you to ask. And I think that that's why things like this are interesting to see done. Like this, you know, we've seen The Creature from the Black Lagoon, King Kong, Beauty and the Beast trope done 1,000 times over. But to see it done in this artsy-fartsy, and I don't mean to say that in a bad way, it's just a way to describe it. It's just a way to describe the kind of subgenre that this fills. But the girl and the monster build a real relationship here, and they have a reason to understand each other and relate to each other, and it's fully consensual, and it almost seems like she wants it more than fucking he does. Like all he does is like pull her shirt open a little bit, she freaks, runs out, then gets naked and goes in, and they're all like fucking, everything's cool. And I don't know that, you know, it's meant to be questionable, and it's also meant to be questionable for not even the reason of like, oh, is it morally right to fuck a fish man? I don't know. I've never fucked a fish man, so I wouldn't know. But it's questionable as to, like, you know, he's being kept in fucking her apartment at this point in a bathtub with some table salt and some like weird Amazon incense or whatever the hell that shit was that was floating on the top of the water that was keeping him alive, barely, it seemed. And, you know, he was being injured and was getting sick, so it was questionable more because, you know, he was in bad shape, and she was mostly keeping him around because they liked each other, and he was a companion for her, and a point of relation, and someone to fuck, quite simply. So as it grows over time, so that's why it was questionable, even more than just, well, should woman and fishman, as she does in the movie. I don't know. The movie doesn't answer that question. It just shows it and asks you to question it yourself. So discuss it with your friends as you go see the movie. Other spoilers: the movie is just really fucked up and gruesome in other respects outside of the monster stuff. I mean, it's rated R. There's a lot of sex and violence and you know, like espionage themes that lead to people dying and gunplay. So I think what's really cool about all that is that we're already doing this, like, adult, more psychological driven and emotionally driven monster movie. So why not have some more adult, like, you know, kind of violence and horror, and also, you know, espionage and action kind of beats that would befit a more mature, befit a more mature movie. So I really liked seeing that as well. So I just think that this movie really, it nails it on almost every front. If you're into this kind of thing, and I don't mean that in the fish fuckery kind of sense, I mean that in the monster movie, Creature from the Black Lagoon, science fiction, artsy-fartsy science fiction kind of sense. It's definitely going to scratch all those itches very well. I got a Blade Runner 2049 vibe from this too, in the sense of, like, I want to see stuff with this kind of budget more often that isn't like dun 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 dun, people running around like shooting each other, and there's a little bit of that in Blade Runner 2049, but I mean, like, you know, something that isn't just like a franchise driven action piece, something that has a big budget science fiction aesthetic, but it is more kind of a low-key character drama. It's more about the ideas and the psychological drama, and you can do both. And there's room for everything. There's room for the franchise-driven action shit too. I saw Star Wars 3 times, son. Fucking, all that shit. There's room for everything, but there's got to be everything. And I want to see stuff like this and Blade Runner more often, where we can sit down and ask questions about these things and have time to consider them, and not just constantly be, moving on to the next action set piece. So I think this will scratch that itch very well. Indeed. So I'm trying to think of what else I want to say. Spoiler wise, like I said, I just think you should go see it and experience it for yourself. I've already talked for 20 minutes, so I don't know what else I can possibly say to get you to go. You could have definitely gotten your tickets, gotten in your car, and gone to the theater by now, so you should definitely go do that. So a little bit of self-promotion then to round out this here on-camera appearance. So we are going to be taking a little bit of a break from the usual podcasting for the next month throughout January, because we did it like straight for a while and we didn't take a little break. So we're going to take a little break now. When we come back, I'm not sure how we're going to do it. We have to talk about it a little more in detail, but podcasting will be sporadic, to say the least, for a little bit. But in February and going forward, we will be back in full force with all new kinds of miniseries and the regular podcasts and all kinds of other stuff in addition. So follow the Sons of Sarazawa Network homepage on Facebook to really keep in touch with what we're doing, and follow all of us at the same time, because we all use that as our way of going, hey, I did this, look at it. So that's what you really want to use as your way of keeping in touch and following what we're doing. Andres has a comic book coming out this year. Dylan is finally going to be doing YouTube stuff on his channel again, probably. David finally did the tag video. I saw that today. Ooh. So follow the Sons of Sarazawa Network homepage to, like I said, keep track of all that. In terms of other stuff that you can see from me coming up, Shin Godzilla, the Godzilla Palooza addendum, it's in my to-do folder. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to happen yet. My plan was to do that back in November, but that didn't happen for a million reasons. So that's my plan for the beginning of this year. I'm just not exactly sure when. So I'm going to definitely work on that diligently. But like I said, we'll come back for the normal podcasting in February, and we'll have more of a firm grasp on what we're going to do. And we can see movies like The Shape of Water to inspire us to take those directions. So go see this movie and find that point of inspiration for yourself. So until I see you guys next time, I am Bill Worster, aka Zazubar, and I hope you grow gills and don't drown or die of gunshot wounds, because that would suck. Farewell, y'all.